We recognize that the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society gathers on the land of the Western Abenaki people. We respect the Abenaki's spiritual relationship to this land and seek to honor the living traditions of the Abenaki. We humbly hope to learn from them how we can better live in harmony, peace, and justice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society's December 11th service. My name is Ren Caldwell, and I will be serving as worship associate today for the Reverend Barnaby Feeder, who is leading today's service. If you are visiting us for the first time today, please send us a message to introduce yourself. And be sure to join us after the service for our virtual coffee hour for good conversation and company. If you haven't already done so, this would be the perfect time to turn off your cell phones and any other electronic devices, so we can all focus on the devices we're together on. If anyone has milestones and passages to share today that they haven't yet sent to Barnaby, they can type them into the Zoom chat to be read during the service. We do a lot together outside of Sunday worship, all the while observing COVID-19 safety guidelines. Be sure to look at your recently published December, for these pathways to connection to CVUUS programs and your fellow UUs. Meanwhile, let me point out the following pathways to healthy connections. Visiting the sanctuary. Anyone who might be missing our sanctuary has the opportunity to visit at least once during December. We have it beautifully decorated for the many holidays of the season, including opportunities for candle lighting and hearing music, and for further decoration of our Three Sisters of Love trees. We fully support those who don't feel comfortable for any reason with this invitation to stay away, and wait for a video tour we will post later this month. You can sign up for well-spaced visits on Monday, Wednesday, or Saturday at 10 to 11 a.m., 4 to 5 p.m., and 7 to 8 p.m. by emailing office@cvuus.org. Let us know if you prefer to come in at the beginning of the hour or the second. We're flexible. You can also sign up to be a safety volunteer for any of these slots by emailing office@cvuus.org. Also, be sure to watch this past Sunday's Time for All Ages with Director of Religious Exploration, Poppy Reese, decorating our CVUUS holiday tree in the sanctuary. She did it all alone this year and put up 70 ornaments, one for each child, with everyone in her heart and mind. You can find links to this and other videos on our website or by contacting Poppy. CVUUS kids-made heart ornaments will be sold, benefiting the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Guest at Your Table program for $2 cash or check to UUSC from December 1st to 22nd outside Fenhouse back door in a box labeled GAYT. Don't wait too long, numbers are limited. We are also getting close to the 7th annual, but first on Zoom, No Rehearsal Christmas Pageant. This will take place Saturday, December 19th at 4 p.m. live on Zoom and streaming live on YouTube. The event will be very interactive. You will get to sing along with songs and be in the pageant. On Sunday, December 20th at 10 a.m., the recording of this Saturday live Zoom pageant will be shown on Zoom and stream on YouTube, followed by coffee hour. You can contact Poppy with any questions. Our call to worship today is a poem by the 15th century poet Kabir from the collection Songs of Kabir. Between the poles of the conscious and the unconscious, there has the mind made a swing. Thereon hang all beings and all worlds, and that swing never ceases its sway. Millions of beings are there. The sun and the moon in their courses are there. Millions of ages pass, and the swing goes on. All swing, the sky and the earth and the air and the water, and the Lord himself taking form. And the sight of this has made Kabir. Now Reverend Barnaby will light the chalice, and afterwards I invite everyone to join me in reading the chalice lighting as it appears on your screen. Flame, friend of our most ancient ancestors, we kindle you now in this time. Yet in truth you burn always, in the unique worth of each person, in the imagination, in the turn of the heart to sorrow or joy, in the call to hope and in the call to justice. Burn bright before us, burn bright within us.
Introduction. Good morning, everyone. We're having a few connection problems for Zoom. I hope you found your way in on YouTube. If you didn't make it on Zoom, we're glad that you've chosen to worship with us this morning. One of my favorite stories for the past month is going to be the Time for All Ages, and it's perfect for a year when we're struggling to figure out what and how to celebrate during this holiday season. And this story celebrates life, and it celebrates compassion and respect for nature, the past, the present, and the future. And it's a story of hope. And it begins with a boy born into a very big family in upstate New York in the summer of 1839, a long time ago. And this family moved around a lot, but they eventually landed in Cleveland, Ohio. And at the age of 16, he left school and started a job as a bookkeeper. And then he got involved in a very new business at the time. It was a business refining oil that came out of the ground into kerosene. Now, kerosene was used to light the lamps that were the only source of light for most people in the nation for many, many years. And he became very involved in this business of refining oil, which later became useful also to make gasoline for cars. So he was bringing light and movement to the nation. And along the way, he became the richest man in the history of the world. His name was John D. Rockefeller. He was not especially nice to a lot of people. In fact, some of his businesses did very cruel things. But he was also raised in a religious family, and he was extremely generous. So as fast as he got wealthy, he also started giving away large sums of his money. And you can see his picture there on the left. Now, he had a family as well, and his oldest son, John D. Rockefeller Jr., inherited a lot of this money. He didn't really like business that much, but he did like giving it away to good causes. And one of the things that happened on the way there was they had a huge chunk of property they controlled in the middle of New York City, which they had hoped they would make the home for the New York City Opera. But the Great Depression hit and the opera couldn't afford to move. So the Rockefeller family decided to build a huge complex of buildings there. And right in the middle of it, there was a big public plaza with a skating rink open to everyone because John D. Rockefeller Sr., the father, who was at this time very old, loved ice skating. And here you can see a picture from a few years ago of what that ice skating rink looks like in the middle of all of those buildings. A lot of people have connections to that ice skating rink. I went there on one of my first dates with Michelle, and she stayed with me even though I'm a terrible ice skater. In the background, you see the Christmas tree there. When they were building Rockefeller Center in the middle of the Depression, the very first year, some workmen brought a little Christmas tree, and the Rockefellers liked that idea. So they started bringing bigger and bigger Christmas trees until it became the tradition to have a giant Christmas tree completely decorated for the public. And the lights were turned on that Christmas tree. It was televised around the nation. It was a big event. And I think many people in our congregation have seen the Rockefeller Christmas tree up live at one time or another. They've been in New York City when it was on, or you know people who've been there or who watched it on TV. Well, this story involves what happened to the Christmas tree this past year. And when you bring the Christmas tree, this isn't the past year, because if you could see closely, you would see people without masks around that tree. But they cut down a 75-foot to 100-foot tree somewhere in the nation, and they bring it to New York. And the last stage is they bring it to the plaza to be erected. And you can see it's all wrapped up, just the way your tree might be if you got one locally. Well, as they were approaching the plaza this year, just about a month ago, one of the workers noticed, caught in the tree, what looked like a baby owl. And he pulled that owl out of the tree, and he phoned around to find out who could take care of this owl. And he found a woman upstate. And so he put the owl in a box, and they drove it upstate. If you can, the next slide, you'll see the owl in the box. And it turned out it wasn't a baby owl. It was a nearly full-grown saw-whet owl. Saw-whets are the smallest, among the smallest owls in our country. We almost never see them because they're nocturnal. They don't come out except at night. And he ended up here at the Ravensbeard Center, where they named him Rockefeller, and they decided to, they fed him. He turned out to be very, very hungry. He hadn't really eaten probably in 3 days when they found him. They made sure he was warm. They got x-rays. And as he got fed, he put on some weight, and they discovered that he was a she, because it's the female owls in the saw-whet owl family who are about 1/3 larger. And so they shortened the name from Rockefeller to Rocky. And here's Rocky being warmed up. Now, the woman who runs the center put some YouTubes of Take Care of Rocky up, and to her surprise, because she had been putting up YouTubes of animals they've taken care of forever, people from all over the world responded and got excited about the rescue of this owl. And so now there you could get Rocky paraphernalia, coffee cups and tree ornaments and things like that. But I wanted to show you the happy ending of Rocky's story. A few days after she had been fed and gotten healthy, she was taken up into the mountains near where she was probably born and released. And we're going to show you that video. Now, the woman in this picture is Ellen Kalish. And I hope you noticed that she instinctively put her hands together almost in prayer as the bird flew away. Actually, saw-whets have very little contact with humans, and so they really aren't scared of them. And that bird actually sat on her arm for close to 4 minutes before it flew away. And it was an incredibly moving experience for Ellen. And Ellen said she might try and tune in today. I hope she's with us on YouTube and watching. The story is now ours to take care of and nourish if we so choose. And later, Ren and I are going to show you one way that we can do that, which I think you're going to enjoy. But for now, let's listen to Poppy sing the song that we would be singing if we were the children were with us in the sanctuary and we're about to go off to classes.
Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. And may we walk in peace. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to seek what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. And may we walk in peace.
Whether it's live or video, that song always gets me with Poppy singing it. And I can't wait till we're all together in the sanctuary doing it the way we used to. At this point, after the children have left, it's often our custom to take up our offering. And for those of you who have been with us for a long time, you know that we usually share that offering with some group in our community, the state, the nation, or even the world that's working on issues that are important to UU values. Earlier this month, we've been sharing our offering with the Charter House Shelter for the Homeless here in Middlebury. But today we make one exception. This is the day in the year when our offering goes exclusively to a bonus pool for your employees, your part-time employees who have worked so hard ever since the COVID crisis began to make church as important an experience in our lives as we can, even though we can't be together. And that is so much of what makes it important for us. So that staff includes Poppy, who's our Director of Religious Exploration, Laura Asurmali, who is our Business Administrator and Office Manager, Chris Butler, our fabulous bookkeeper, Keith Rickerby, who is our sexton, Lucy Tenenbaum, who is our choir director, trying her best to keep a choir going when she can't have her choir together in the sanctuary. And I think no one is hurting more from this COVID experience than Lucy not being able to be with her choir. And and also our two fabulous accompanists, Kate Gridley and Chuck Miller. Now, normally we would be including the people who take care of the children in the nursery, but we haven't had any children in the nursery this year. And so the pool is going for the people that I've just mentioned. And I invite you to be as generous as you're able. If you can't manage to give during this time when we're collecting the offering, you can still go online during the week or send a check to the office. Thank you so much.
Hello. We are coming to you today as co-chairs of this year's annual Canvas. I am Brett Millier, and Carl and I have been coming to CVUUS since the fall of 2001, which is not at all a coincidence. I had been thinking about a religious education and community for our children who were young, very young then. And I knew something about UUs because my mother had been a longtime member of the San Francisco and Santa Rosa congregations. In addition, a story I like to tell from that same fall was Peter, a perennial dinosaur enthusiast, having an argument on the playground of the Cornwall school with a kid who said that Jesus had come before the dinosaurs. And Peter was incensed about this, knowing it not to be true, but also baffled by the kid's insistence. And he came home with this story. And that also helped me to think it was time for a religious education for my children. But a week after the terrorist attacks of 9/11, I found my way to the office of then Minister Johanna Nichols, and said, I was desperate for a more nuanced conversation about our place in the world and what would come next for myself and for my kids. Peter and Annie, now 25 and 23, grew up in this congregation. And like many of you over the years, I have served in a number of roles from RE assistant to board president and everything in between. And now, for the first time, a co-chair of the annual campus.
Yes. Finally, we were asked to do so. You know, we've been lobbying for years for the opportunity. I'm not sure if I found CVUUS or if CVUUS found me. I grew up going to church every Sunday. My parents were very involved in a church in Lewiston, Maine, Northern Baptist church. I liked going to church pretty well. The church also is a big old church, and it had a gymnasium, a full court basketball court in the church. So it was that appealed to me too. I had no dramatic rupture with the church. I kind of drifted away in college, like so many young people, and just stopped going. To the degree I gave it any thought, I discovered I couldn't say the words required of me in the church. So the 7 UU principles seem to encapsulate my feelings and beliefs over time as I grew up and older. I could say the words. I also, along the way, company CVUS, as Brett mentioned, we came initially in significant part, because of our kids who were 6 and 4 at that time. I had 2 older children. I had 2 children in a first marriage, and we didn't go to church. And there was something of a loss there because they couldn't decide for themselves about the nature of a religious commitment. And for example, the RE program, Neighboring Faiths, I thought was of tremendous appeal. And along the way, I became a fairly ardent consumer of Sunday services as they filled a need. I felt the need every week for some time of thoughtful communion. I often, when I'm a worship associate, I often try to find a way to insert the words of Oliver Wendell Holmes, who declared that the garden of his soul needed watering once a week. So along with Brett, I'm pleased, I'm happy to be involved in the Canvas in this way. It's an enormous collaboration with so many others. I'm happy to do it, and I'm daunted.
Well, so we're just getting started, and job one for the Canvas is to decide on a theme. And we are excited on a lot of levels about the idea, about organizing the Canvas around the idea of preparing to be together again in person, which precisely captures the task and the goal of this year's Canvas, to kind of retool the budget in order to offer services as we once offered them. But we're searching for a way to express that theme in a catchier way. So send your suggestions to us, please. Some niftier way of saying preparing to be together in person again. And stay tuned for more information about how you can participate in what will be a person-to-person Canvas by whatever media necessary. And let us know if you'd like to help. Thank you. And now please enjoy the choir singing Dona Nobis Pacem, with thanks to Dear Lucy and to Eric Mayer for engineering.
Dona nobis pacem, pacem. Dona nobis pacem.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for that, choir members. And it was so great to be able to have a member participating from Tallahassee. You can go anywhere in the country now if you have to and still be part of the choir. It's a fantastic silver lining to the COVID crisis that we've learned how to do this. Before we move into a period of silence and prayer and meditation so that you can be clear about what's on your heart this morning, I want to share with you some excerpts from a prayer called Ode to Silence by the Reverend Mark Bellatini. You, silence, are the ground on which we build, the fragile sandcastles of every spoken word. You, silence, are the strand of beach we stroll, where loneliness turns into solitude, and our small heartbeats join the much vaster heartbeat of tide and wave. You, silence, are the wide, bright delta into which the river of this prayer fans out, before it flows into the indigo deep, quiet, dark, and lovely. Come, silence, fill this moment.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. We will
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about a different form of singing since we can't sing in person together, a form of singing that's storytelling, that's also expansive. So, dear Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalists, I feel it incumbent upon me to share a recent conversation I had during a walk in the countryside with Pan, our English Shepherd rescue dog. Now, you may find it hard to believe, but I know you've had trouble believing other things that I've said in my 8+ years with you as your minister, and yet here we still are together. You've been true to your word when you said you called me to speak my truth and not just to tell you things you already believed. If it's any help, I assure you that I wrote all this down not long after it happened, when my memory of it was still crystal clear. It was one of those gray, cold December afternoons where the line between what is visible and what isn't gets blurry. I had a warm knit cap pulled down low inside the fur-fringed hood of my coat. And you know what that's like. I couldn't see much except what was directly in front of me as I was walking. There were little patches of white on the ground and isolated flakes of it skittering around in the air. Pan and I were passing by an evergreen thicket. We were having a typical, mostly silent conversation. Me: Pan, isn't this beautiful? It reminds me of Kenneth Patton's sonnet proclaiming, winter is the candid season, the cold anatomical strippage of the year, the autopsy of summer's body. Now we know if we love all of life, the framework and the rough carpentry beneath, the decorations and flowers and leaves, the plumbing and the wiring to be seen only when painted plaster is torn from the walls, the masterwork beneath life's masterpiece. Well, to be honest, I was paraphrasing this to Pan because I have not actually memorized that whole sonnet. But, Pan's response, and I'm going to translate it for you because you might not fully understand his particular dialect of barking, moans, grunts, and begging, was, yes, 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 do you have a treat? I think I'll go back to sniffing. It's so much easier to pounce on a mouse or a vole at this time of year. They are just as crunchy, but slower and fatter. Whoa, squirrel sighting, chase on. So the next part of the dialogue was me to myself, watching him sprint away, saying, okay, I'll call you to come back once your barking and circling is focused on just one particular treetop. I'll have a treat ready for you when you give up. Now, none of what I and Pan said is essential to the conversation I really want to talk to you about this morning. It's just kind of a preface to give thanks for how beautiful life is when we are walking in the Vermont woods with some person or other being we love, especially if we have a ready supply of treats. It never hurts to take a moment for gratitude that we live here. Anyway, there I was by the evergreens, and from deep within the thicket, I heard a beeping sound, sort of like a pickup truck backing up. Ah, the call of the saw-whet owl. That's weird, I thought. You normally only hear that at night. Just for fun, I said to the thicket, hey, buddy, what's up with you? I heard a rustle, and then...
Not much, just hiding from predators, including Pan, since I'm smaller than that squirrel he's chasing.
Whoa, what's going on? Where's the electronic gear behind this?
You're not thinking this through. How would any human invention you've ever seen recognize that it's you and Pan, or what he's doing, and speak to you about it?
What are you?
I believe the better response would be, who are you? And not just because I'm an owl. A saw-whet owl, in fact. A saw-whet owl with a human-gifted name, Rocky. You may have heard of me. You know, the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree owl?
Forget all that. I can't help but notice you seem to be able to speak to me in intelligible English. I didn't see anything about that in any of the news coverage about Rocky's journey to New York in the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree and then back upstate to freedom. And you seem to know something about me and my dog. Am I supposed to believe that's possible? That I'm not just hallucinating?
Well, it's not likely to be possible. But before you go straight to impossible, think about all those stories across human culture of wise talking owls. What are the odds every last one of them is completely fiction?
Astronomical. They're beyond calculation.
Like the odds of a little bit of candle oil, enough for barely one day, burning for 8 days in a Jerusalem temple? Or the odds that an all-powerful God would come to earth in the form of a human baby, born to a teenage woman who had never, to her knowledge at least, had sex with anyone? That angels would sing to poor shepherds of the baby's birth, and that the baby would somehow escape attempts to have it murdered in infancy by a powerful ruler? And that this baby, born into a marginalized Jewish family in a society ruled by a mighty, hostile empire, would become a preacher at the relatively late age of 30, die on a cross within a year or two, and somehow become the spark of a global religion?
Well, those are stories. So the odds they aren't reliable history only make them more interesting. They are like open invitations to embellishment.
Well, that sounds like a heavenly invitation. You have this capacity for imagination outstripping all other animals. Wouldn't any God that loved you find some way to urge you to use it? Especially to make your favorite stories even more beautiful, exciting, and complex. Think of a loving God as the sum of your growth potential and better angels. Wouldn't that God urge you to follow each new question that great stories raise for you, deeper into the ocean of mystery, surrounding what you are certain you know?
You might think, based on our history, any God that loved us would be deeply worried about what we can imagine. Obviously, it includes the non-existence of any God. That's probably the majority of my congregation. They can imagine the world without gods, and many of them have gone on to believe that's reality. Are you here to tell me God exists?
Of course not, even if I knew the answer. I'm not sure why I'm here. To tell the truth, I started to migrate south like most of my kind once I was released. But somehow, here I am. Maybe I was powerfully drawn to how skeptical you are that there is any reality to this conversation.
But why? What's in it for you?
Well, from my perspective, that of an English-speaking saw-whet owl, it's very entertaining and educational to encounter a human being bumping up against the limits of his proclaimed open-mindedness. It must be quite a predicament to be able to easily imagine me without believing I am possible. I think the only way you can make sense of this is to figure out what you can trust about it.
Figure out what I can trust about it. What on earth should I be trusting you for? Can I at least see you? Wow, you do look a lot like the pictures on the internet. Don't give me that "what did you expect" roll of your eyes, which I do have to say are among the most beautiful eyes I have ever seen. Okay, I concede you are mind-blowingly extraordinary in every way. But according to the news reports, you're not even yet a full-fledged adult. Are you already wise like the owl legends? What can you tell me that's trustworthy and important? I don't really need to know where the deer mice and large insects you hope to dine on are hiding.
Don't underestimate how much you could learn from where the large insects and deer mice are. After all, like every living thing, they are barometers of climate change, which, you have to admit, is not unimportant. But if I'm stretching your imagination, maybe there are even bigger things for us to explore.
For us to explore? For example, what?
What we really need to live a happy, meaningful life. Liberation from narrow thinking. Grounds for hope. And I certainly have my issues on which you might be helpful.
Really? Like what?
Well, I've been reading some troubling things. Don't look so astonished. Think about how often owls are depicted with glasses reading books in the children's sections of libraries. We are natural-born readers of the fields and forests, especially in the dark. And now, with my language capabilities, I find I'm quite the bookworm as well. Anyway, I'm depressed about what I read about my life expectancy. The oldest saw-whet owls found in the wild are about 7 years old. In captivity, where we have enough food and shelter from predators, it's more than double that.
I guess being an owl is no romp in the forest like Pan is enjoying.
And yet there was no question that I should be released into the wild once I recovered my strength. You all believe wildness seems to be more essential to who I am than simple survival. I agree, but I'm not sure why. It's probably an issue for humans too, even if you want to call it personal freedom instead of wildness. All living beings seem to have pretty basic things in common.
It could be. You've got me thinking about the COVID virus now. A lot of people are struggling with the restrictions on their behavior. Our health experts say they are necessary to reduce the overall death toll and potential long-range health impact on so many millions of cases, but there's a lot of resistance anyway. And our political life often seems to be veering towards dangerous levels of wildness. Maybe there's something going on we discount at our peril, even as we try to tame our most damaging impulses.
Well, crowd behavior seems to be a bigger part of human nature than for owls. Individual and crowd impulses to wildness may be very different things. By the way, did you notice Pan has stopped barking? Maybe he got porcupined again.
Oh God, porcupine. I should be surprised that you knew about that, even though it was before you became famous and literate. But if he has been stupid enough to get nailed again so soon, I'm going to wring his neck.
That's not true, or I wouldn't have been drawn to you. But I was just kidding. He's fine. Looks like he is headed back to you at an impressive speed with some pretty amazing agility. I'm going to hop over here on this branch, downwind and out of reach, and I'm going to stay very still. By the way, he wants you to say great dog instead of good dog when you give him his treat. Trust me on this.
Okay, I'll do that. But are we going to see each other again, Rocky?
Yes, but don't use that name. Sounds like a ridiculous squirrel name. And I didn't like its predecessor, Rockefeller, either. We can talk more about the real me next time. And, for that matter, the real you. One more thing. When you are leaving and Pan is looking the other way, throw one of those treats back toward me. We both love to gobble up deer mice. I might really enjoy that treat of his too.
Well, there you have it. Meeting the owl, formerly known to me as Rocky, has put me in a Christmas story, a Christmas tree story, and a bigger story, as well as in the Christmas spirit. I think this story is going to have some wonderful twists and turns in 2021. It gives me more hope for the coming year. May it do so for you as well. I look forward to seeing those of you who can join us for coffee hour, Zoom coffee hour after the postlude. Meanwhile, may I send you forth with this benediction. All around us, stories are in bloom, and often they're only part of the story. In fact, always they are only part of the story. They're waiting for us to insert ourselves to make more meaning in the world. And as we make that meaning, to bend the arc of the universe towards justice, compassion, and beauty. May it be so.